The message from Earth arrived at the Galactic Council headquarters without fanfare. Ambassador William Carter's hologram appeared before the council with his usual polite smile. He thanked them for their cooperation over the years and announced that humanity would be taking a step back from galactic affairs. The transmission ended before any council member could respond. Most council members barely noticed. The Zorlak diplomat, Grelthus, made a dismissive gesture with his upper limbs. "Humans are always so dramatic," he said to the Phrygian representative beside him. "They will return when they need our technology again." But humanity did not return. One by one, human embassies across 200 worlds closed their doors. The staff left quietly, often overnight. They took everything with them, from advanced computers to family photos. They left nothing behind except empty buildings. Admiral Susan Miller oversaw the withdrawal of human colonies on distant worlds. Under her command, massive colony ships arrived at each settlement. The colonists packed up their homes, farms, and factories. They dismantled research stations and mining operations. Everything of value went onto the ships. On New Eden, the oldest human colony, Mayor Peter Dawson watched as the last transport prepared to leave. "Are we sure about this?" he asked Susan as they stood on the landing pad. "The council has made it clear for 50 years that they see us as children," Susan replied. Her gray eyes scanned the horizon one last time. "We've given them our best technology, our best minds, our best efforts. And still, they pat us on the head and tell us to wait another century before we can have a real voice." Peter nodded slowly. "What about the defense systems, the medical research, the containment protocols? We're following orders. Take what's ours. Leave the basic infrastructure. If they haven't figured out how much they depend on us by now, they never will." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On the space station Odyssey, engineer Frank Cooper powered down the human-designed core systems. He left only the basic life support running. The station would function, but none of the advanced features would work without human maintenance. At the Galactic Medical Institute, Dr. Olivia Pearson collected her research on cross-species viral immunity. Her alien colleagues watched in confusion. "Why take everything?" asked Dr. Zilvin, her Medusan research partner. "At least leave copies of your work." Olivia smiled sadly. "My work is humanity's work. For too long, our discoveries have been credited to the Council as a whole, while our people remain second-class citizens in this galaxy." On Earth, the Global Defense Council met for the final time before implementation of the Solitude Protocol. President Catherine Monroe addressed the room. "For 100 years, we have been the backbone of the galaxy. Our AI systems run their stations. Our medical techniques save their lives. Our containment fields hold back the void swarm. And yet, when we speak at council meetings, they talk over us." Defense Secretary Kyle Bennett stood. "All ships are recalling to Sol system. Colony evacuations are 98% complete. The only humans remaining in council space will be our observation teams." "And the swarm?" asked Vice President Eric Lawson. "The containment fields will hold for approximately 3 years without maintenance," Kyle answered. "More than enough time for the council to realize what they've lost." Far from Earth, on the flagship of the human fleet, Commander Daniel Wright received the final withdrawal order. He looked at his bridge crew and nodded. "Take us home," he said quietly. The massive ship turned away from council space. Behind it, 100 other vessels followed. The greatest exodus in human history was nearly complete, and the Galactic Council hadn't even noticed the significance of what was happening. On the council homeworld, only one alien seemed concerned. Councillor Xenti of the Phrygians stared at the report showing human withdrawal members. Unlike his colleagues, he understood. "They're all leaving," he whispered to himself. "And we have no idea what we've just lost." 3 months passed since the humans left. At first, life in the galaxy continued as normal. Then small problems began to appear. On the trading hub of Nexus Station, Shop owner Grath couldn't get his usual shipment of Earth spices. Temporary shortage, the supplier told him. But the next week, all Earth goods disappeared from the market listings. In the Council Medical Center, a young Phrygian child lay sick with a disease the human doctors had routinely cured. The alien doctors tried everything they knew, but without Dr. Olivia Pearson's techniques, they failed. The child survived, but would never fully recover. Counselor Xenti noticed these small changes. He kept a list on his private terminal. Human goods, unavailable. Human medical procedures, no longer performed. Human maintained equipment, beginning to fail. The first major crisis came when the central communications hub lost power. The station had been designed by aliens, but the efficiency improvements had been human work. Without regular maintenance from human engineers, the backup systems failed to activate. "How long until communications are restored?" asked High Minister Vrax during the emergency council session. The Tellurian engineer looked nervous. "The systems were maintained by human technicians. We're trying to understand their modifications, but it could be weeks." Vrax slammed his fist down. "Weeks. The outer systems will be completely isolated." Counselor Xentai spoke up. "This is only the beginning. We've identified 47 critical systems that relied on human expertise. All of them will fail within the year." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Grelthaz, the Zorlak diplomat, stood tall on his hind legs. "Impossible. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage. How could we possibly depend on them so heavily?" Xenti displayed a chart on the main screen. "Because we let them solve our problems while we took the credit. A hospital on Proxima IV. Human-designed life support systems. The defense grid protecting the Killian sector. Human AI programming. The food processing technology feeding half the quadrant. Human agricultural science." Silence fell over the council. "They were everywhere," Xenti continued, "fixing everything, improving everything. And we treated them like children." On the edge of council space, Jack Morgan sat in a hidden observation post. He was one of the few humans who hadn't returned to Earth. His job was to watch and report. Jack's console beeped. Another system failure, this time on the resort world of Paradiso. The atmospheric regulators were malfunctioning. Nothing critical yet, but in a few months, the air would become unbreathable. He sent an encrypted message back to Earth. "It's starting. They're beginning to notice." The response came quickly. "Continue observation. No contact." In his private quarters on the council homeworld, Kethmar, the council's chief investigator, reviewed the data. The pattern was undeniable. Humans had integrated themselves into every aspect of galactic civilization. Their departure was causing a cascade of failures. He drafted an emergency report for the full council. His conclusion was simple and devastating. The galactic infrastructure as we know it will collapse within one standard year unless human expertise is restored. When the report reached High Minister Vrax, he immediately classified it. "This cannot become public," he told his advisors. "There would be panic." But rumors spread quickly. On a dozen worlds, citizens began hoarding supplies. The price of human goods soared to impossible heights. A single Earth apple sold for more than a small spaceship. In a luxurious apartment on the council capital, Counselor Xenti met secretly with Lyrith, the new council ambassador assigned to human relations. "We need to contact them," Lyrith said. "Offer them whatever they want." Xenti shook his head. "They don't want our technology or our resources. They wanted respect, and we failed to give it." "Then what can we offer them?" "I don't know," Xenti admitted. "But we better figure it out quickly. Because there's something else in my report that Vrax classified. The containment fields around the Void Swarm are showing early signs of degradation." Lyrith's face paled. "Without those fields?" "Yes," Xenti said grimly. "Without those fields, everything else we're experiencing will seem like a minor inconvenience." Council investigator Kethmar stared out the viewport of his ship as they approached Proxima Colony, once the pride of human expansion. Now it stood silent, a ghost world with empty buildings and powered-down factories. "This is the 5th colony we visited," he said to Jack Morgan, the human liaison reluctantly assigned to assist him. "And like all the others, they took everything important." Jack leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Not everything. The buildings are still here. The basic power grid still works. The water purification system still runs." "But nothing advanced," Kethmar noted, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Nothing that made human colonies special." Their ship landed on an empty pad. Unlike the chaotic evacuation scenes Kethmar had imagined, everything here was orderly. The humans had left methodically, taking their time, leaving no mess behind. "I need to understand what they took," Kethmar said as they walked through the empty colony center. "The council needs specifics." Jack led him to a large building with a domed roof. "This was our defense center. The planetary shield generators are still here." Inside, Kethmar saw rows of consoles and equipment. It looked intact. "See, your people left the defense systems." Jack smiled slightly. "Turn it on." Kethmar pressed what appeared to be the main power button. Lights came on, displays flickered to life. But then an error message appeared on every screen. "Neural interface disconnected. Advanced functions unavailable." "What's missing?" Kethmar demanded. "The AI," Jack explained. "Developed by Dr. Greg Adams. It made this system 1,000,000 times more effective than anything else in the galaxy. We took the AI, left the hardware." This pattern repeated across the colony. The hospital stood ready but lacked the advanced diagnostic tools. The farm equipment remained but without the soil enrichment technology. The communication array was intact but missing the quantum entanglement enhancers. In the colony's records building, Kethmar finally lost his patience. "Why did your people do this? Was it revenge?" Jack considered the question. "Not revenge. A lesson, maybe. Humans were the newcomers, right? The young species just learning to travel between stars. That's what the council always said." He activated a holographic display showing the colony in its prime. "But the truth, humans solved problems no one else could. We didn't have your fancy materials or 1,000-year-old science traditions. We had to think differently." The hologram showed humans working alongside aliens, installing systems, making improvements. Every time the council faced a crisis, who fixed it? When the Droxy plague hit Centerpoint Station, who developed the cure? When the Killian sector defense grid kept failing, who redesigned it? Humans. Always humans. Kethmar remained silent. "We knew we were holding everything together," Jack continued. "The council treated us like children while depending on us like parents." Back on their ship, Kethmar compiled his findings. The picture was worse than the council feared. Humans hadn't just withdrawn their presence. They had removed layers of innovation that made galactic civilization function at its current level. "There's one more colony to visit," Jack said as they left orbit. "Harmony Station. It was our research hub." "What will we find there?" Kethmar asked. "Nothing. And that's the problem." Jack pointed to a display showing their flight path. The route we're taking passes near the containment zone. "The Void Swarm." Kethmar's voice held fear. "That's nowhere near our course." "It used to be nowhere near our course," Jack corrected. "The containment field is shrinking. Has been since we left." Kethmar checked his instruments and saw Jack was right. The Void Swarm's containment zone had contracted by 12%. "The council doesn't know this yet," Jack said. "The monitoring stations still report normal readings." "How do you know it's happening then?" Jack's expression darkened. "Because my people built those containment fields. We know exactly how long they'll last without maintenance. The council is about to face something far worse than broken communication systems or medical equipment shortages." "What is the Void Swarm?" Kethmar asked, suddenly aware of his ignorance. "Something ancient. Something humans encountered long before we reached the stars." Jack's eyes reflected the starlight. "Something we remember, even when we wish we could forget." On the outer rim of Council space, the monitoring station near Harper's Point went dark. Then another station stopped transmitting, and another. Like falling dominoes, the stations marking the edge of the Void Swarm containment zone began to fail. Council Security Chief Trell burst into the emergency session, interrupting High Minister Vrax. "The Void Swarm has broken through the first containment barrier," she announced. Her normally composed voice shook slightly. 3 outposts have been lost already." The council chamber erupted in chaos. The Void Swarm was considered a distant concern, a problem contained for centuries. Few council members even remembered what the swarm actually was. "How is this possible?" demanded Vrax. "The containment fields were designed to last for millennia." Councillor Xenti stepped forward. "They were designed by humans to last for millennia with regular maintenance," he corrected. "We've had no maintenance for 6 months." Vrax turned to his chief scientist. "Can we repair the fields? Strengthen the remaining barriers?" The scientist, a Medusan named Dr. Vril, shook his large head. "The technology is beyond our understanding. We can operate it, but not modify or improve it. We need human expertise." "Then get it," shouted Vrax. "Whatever they want, give it to them." Meanwhile, far from Council space on an uncharted planet, former Earth Navy Commander Daniel Wright reviewed the latest reports from their monitoring drones. The situation was developing exactly as predicted. "The first barrier has fallen," he told his team gathered in the command center. "The Council has sent 3 urgent messages to Earth in the last hour." Major Linda Powell looked up from her console. "Any response from home?" "Nothing official," Daniel replied. "The Earth government is letting them sweat." Linda frowned. "The swarm will reach Helios Station in 10 days. There are 6 million civilians there." Daniel nodded grimly. "I know. We have ships positioned to evacuate if necessary." Across the room, Dr. Alan Foster stared at simulations of the swarm's movement. "They still don't understand what they're facing. The swarm isn't just a natural phenomenon. It's a weapon." On a secure channel, Daniel connected with Admiral Susan Miller back on Earth. Her hologram appeared before him, looking tired but resolute. "The Council is desperate," Susan told him. "They've offered us full membership and voting rights." "That's what we wanted 5 years ago," Daniel replied, "before we understood our true place in the galaxy." Susan nodded. "President Monroe is addressing the Global Council now. They'll vote on whether to intervene." "And if they vote no?" Daniel asked. "Then we watch as the Council learns the hardest lesson possible." Back in Council space, Kethmar and Jack Morgan reached Helios Station just as evacuation orders were issued. The massive space station was home to millions from dozens of species, and panic was spreading. "We need to find Council Ambassador Lyrith," Kethmar said as they pushed through the crowded docking bay. They found the ambassador in the station's control center, coordinating with local security. When he saw Jack, his expression changed to one of desperate hope. "You're human. Can you help us?" Lyrith asked. "We've lost contact with 3 more outposts." Jack looked at the display showing the Void Swarm's advance. "I'm just an observer. I don't have authority to intervene." "Then who does?" demanded Lyrith. "Your government ignores our messages." Jack glanced at Kethmarch. "Have you told them everything about the swarm? What it really is?" Kethmar looked confused. "It's a destructive space phenomenon, a hazard contained for generations." Jack laughed without humor. "That's what you believe. No wonder you can't stop it." He stepped closer to the display, pointing to the patterns in the swarm's movement. "Look at that. Does that look random to you? Natural?" Lyrith and Kethmar studied the display. "It's changing direction," Lyrith whispered. "Avoiding stronger defenses, targeting weaker ones." "It's hunting," Jack said quietly. "It always has been. And humans are the only species in this galaxy that remembers how to fight it." The Galactic Council's most impressive ship, the Unity, approached Earth with its delegation of high-ranking officials. High Minister Vrax himself led the mission, a fact that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Back then, he wouldn't have visited Earth for any reason. "Prepare for scan," announced the ship's pilot as they entered Earth's solar system. Earth had changed. Massive orbital platforms circled the planet. Defense systems, unlike anything the Council had seen before, stood ready. The home of humanity looked nothing like the Council remembered. "Those structures weren't there when I visited 5 years ago," said Ambassador Lyrith. "They've been building all this time." "And not sharing," Vrax noted bitterly. Earth Space Control hailed them. "Council Vessel Unity, you are cleared to approach Earth Station Alpha. Follow the guide beacon." The Unity docked at a massive space station. Inside, the delegation found spotless corridors and advanced technology operating silently. No humans greeted them. "This way," said a voice from hidden speakers. The delegation followed the directions to a large chamber where Earth's global council waited. President Catherine Monroe sat at the center, flanked by military and scientific advisors. Her expression remained neutral as the aliens entered. "High Minister Vrax," she acknowledged. "This is a surprise. The Great Council rarely sends its leader to address a young species." Vrax suppressed his pride. "Madam President, the galaxy faces an emergency. The Void Swarm has breached containment. 3 worlds are already lost." "We are aware," Catherine replied calmly. "Then you must also be aware that without human expertise, the remaining barriers will fail within weeks. Billions will die." Catherine studied him. "And now you need our help." "Yes," Vrax admitted. The word clearly pained him. "Why should we help?" asked Defense Secretary Kyle Bennett, sitting beside Catherine. "For a century, we offered our friendship, our innovations, our hard work. The Council took everything and gave nothing in return." Ambassador Lyrith stepped forward. "We are prepared to offer full Council membership, equal voting rights, recognition of human contributions." "Too late," said Kyle. Catherine raised her hand, silencing him. "The offer is appreciated, but no longer relevant. We left the Council because we outgrew it, not to force concessions." Vrax's composure broke. "Outgrew it? Your species has barely achieved interstellar travel in the cosmic scale." Catherine smiled. "And yet, you're here, begging for our help with technology you don't understand, to fight an enemy you don't remember." The room fell silent. "What do you mean, don't remember?" asked Lyrith carefully. Catherine nodded to a scientist on her right. Dr. Scott Manning activated a holographic display showing ancient cave paintings from Earth. They depicted tall, thin figures with many arms, surrounding human tribes. "The Void Swarm visited Earth 50,000 years ago," Scott explained. "Before we had writing, before we had civilization. But we remembered in our stories, in our art, in our DNA. The fear was passed down through generations." Vrax looked stunned. "That's impossible. The swarm was first discovered by the Medusan explorers just 800 years ago." "No," Catherine corrected. "It was contained by Medusans 800 years ago, using technology they found abandoned on a dead world. Technology they didn't understand but managed to activate." Scott changed the display, showing familiar-looking containment field generators. Human design. From a human colony that was destroyed in the last swarm outbreak, 12,000 years ago. Vrax turned to his science advisor. "Is this possible?" The advisor nodded slowly. "The oldest containment systems do contain symbols we never deciphered. We assumed they were warnings." "They were instructions," Catherine said, "written by my ancestors, hoping someone would find them and know how to use them." She stood, looking at each member of the delegation. "We will help you, not because you've earned it, but because fighting the swarm is humanity's oldest duty, one we've carried out long before we met any of you." Vrax bowed his head, finally understanding. "What do you need from us?" "Clear the space around the remaining containment fields," Catherine ordered, and prepare your people for the truth about humanity. The council archives were housed in a massive building on their capital world. Few people ever visited the deepest levels, where the oldest records were kept. Now, those sealed rooms were open, with researchers desperately searching for information about the Void Swarm. Lieutenant Paul Winters, one of the few humans who had stayed with the council, worked alongside scientist Maria Rodriguez. They had been granted emergency access to the classified archives by Counselor Xenti. "Look at this," Maria said, holding up an ancient data crystal. "This contains records from before the council was formed." They carefully inserted the crystal into a reader. Images appeared, showing star systems being consumed by a dark, shifting mass. "These are the original Medusan encounters with the swarm," Paul noted. 800 years ago, just like the history books say. Maria pointed to symbols at the edge of one image. "Those markings, they're similar to early human writing." They searched deeper, finding more connections between ancient human civilizations and the Void Swarm. In one sealed container, they discovered physical artifacts. Pieces of technology with unmistakably human design elements, dated thousands of years before humanity officially achieved spaceflight. "This changes everything we thought we knew," Maria whispered. When they presented their findings to the emergency council session, shock filled the chamber. "These artifacts prove that humans reached space long before their recorded history shows," Maria explained. "They encountered the swarm, fought it, and were nearly destroyed." Paul continued, "But they left behind technology and warnings. Those warning systems became the containment fields we've relied on for centuries." High Minister Vrax, recently returned from Earth, stood silent as the council members absorbed this information. "Why didn't humans tell us this when they joined the galactic community?" asked a Zorlak representative. "They didn't know," Paul replied. "The knowledge was lost to them too. But something remained. Instinctive knowledge passed down through generations." "Think about it," Maria added. "Humans have always been unusually good at creating defenses against the swarm. Their containment field designs were intuitive innovations, built without understanding why they worked so well. On the main display, they showed the biological data. Human DNA contained markers that matched elements found in swarm victims. Their ancestors had been changed by the encounter, carrying the memory in their very cells. This is why Earth's president spoke of humanity's oldest duty," Vrax said quietly. "They carry the fight against the swarm in their blood." Across the galaxy, the situation grew worse. The Void Swarm had consumed 3 outer rim worlds and was advancing toward the densely populated core systems. Remaining containment fields flickered, struggling to hold. On the front lines, Commander Daniel Wright's hidden fleet finally revealed itself. 20 ships of human design moved into position around the largest breach in the containment field. "All vessels, prepare phase disruptors," Daniel ordered from his command chair. "Remember your training. The swarm reacts to fear. Keep your minds clear." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Andy Mills, looked nervous. "Sir, these ships were never meant to directly engage the swarm. They're observation vessels." Daniel smiled grimly. "Every human ship is built to fight the swarm, whether the designers knew it or not. It's in our blueprints, just like it's in our DNA." As if to prove his point, hidden weapon systems activated across the fleet. Systems that weren't in any official design, yet existed on every human vessel. Back in the council archives, Paul and Maria made one final discovery. In the oldest section, sealed for millennia, they found a recording made by ancient humans. The message was simple, repeated in multiple languages. "We failed to stop it completely. We leave these tools for those who come after. Remember, the void is not empty. It hunts, it thinks, and it remembers those who heard it." Maria looked at Paul, her face pale. "This isn't just about saving the galaxy. This is about finishing what our ancestors started." Paul nodded. and the Council never knew they were living under the protection of human guardians all along. The skies above Centauri Deep blazed with light as the Void Swarm pushed against the failing containment field. Council ships fired their weapons, but the energy simply disappeared into the darkness without effect. 3 more ships vanished, consumed by the hungry void. "Pull back to secondary positions," ordered the Zorlak fleet commander. "We cannot stop it with conventional weapons." Then a new signal appeared on their sensors. From the edge of the system, a fleet of sleek ships emerged from what appeared to be folds in space itself. At the center of the formation flew a massive dreadnought, twice the size of any Council vessel. Its hull bore the markings of Earth, ESS Defiance. "This is Admiral Nickel Hayes of the Earth Defense Fleet," came the transmission to all ships. "Stand clear. We will handle the swarm." The Council ships retreated, watching in amazement as the human fleet moved with perfect coordination. Rather than random formations, they arranged themselves in precise geometric patterns. On the bridge of the ESS Defiance, Admiral Hayes studied the tactical display. "The swarm has consumed more than we expected. Move to pattern Theta and prepare phase disruptors." Her executive officer, Captain Jeff Gordon, relayed the orders. "All ships confirm pattern Theta. Dr. Mitchell reports the disruption system is ready." In the science bay below decks, Dr. Kevin Mitchell made final adjustments to a device that looked nothing like conventional weapons. It resembled a musical instrument more than a tool of war. "The resonance needs to be precise," he told his team. "The swarm remembers human resistance. It will adapt quickly to our attack." As the human ships moved into position, the Void Swarm reacted. It pulled back from the containment breach, concentrating its mass like an animal preparing to pounce. "It recognizes us," Nickel said quietly. "After all these millennia, it still knows its enemy." The swarm surged forward, tendrils of darkness reaching for the human vessels. But the ships held their formation, their hulls glowing with energy that seemed to repel the darkness. "Activate primary sequence," Nickel ordered. Dr. Mitchell's device hummed to life. Waves of energy pulsed from the human ships, not attacking the swarm but disrupting its very structure. Where the waves touched, the swarm seemed to unravel, its particles losing cohesion. On a Council observation vessel, Councillor Xenti watched with Kethmar and Jack Morgan. "What are they doing?" Kethmar asked. "That's not a weapon I recognize." Jack smiled. "It's not a weapon at all. It's a counter-resonance device. The swarm operates as a hive mind. The device disrupts its ability to maintain cohesion." "How is that possible?" Tenti asked. "Our scientists studied the swarm for centuries and found no sign of intelligence." "Because you studied it while it was contained," Jack explained. "Humans encountered it while it was hunting. We learned its true nature through suffering." The battle intensified. Several human ships took hits, their hulls breached by swarm tendrils. But they held formation, the damaged vessels supported by their neighbors. On the Defiance, alarms blared as a swarm tendril penetrated the lower decks. "Breach in Section 14, reported Captain Gordon. "The swarm is aboard." Knuckles' expression remained calm. "Deploy containment teams. Dr. Mitchell, prepare the final pulse." Throughout the ship, specially trained soldiers moved toward the breach. Unlike the rest of the crew, they carried no energy weapons. Instead, they wore devices on their arms that emitted the same disruptive field as the larger ships. In his laboratory, Dr. Mitchell activated the main sequence. "Final pulse ready, Admiral. But this will drain our shields completely." "Understood," Nickel replied. "All ships, prepare for final sequence on my mark." The human fleet began to glow even brighter, drawing the swarm's attention away from the Council worlds. Like moths to a flame, the darkness converged on the human ships. "Now," Nickel commanded. A blinding light erupted from the human fleet, spreading outward in a perfect sphere. Where it touched the swarm, the darkness shattered like glass, breaking into countless fragments that drifted harmlessly away. From the Council observation post, Sentai watched in awe. They did it. They actually stopped it. Jack's expression remained serious, not stopped. Wounded, driven back. There's a difference. As the light faded, the human fleet remained in formation, their hulls scared but intact. The void swarm had retreated, leaving behind only scattered particles that rapidly dissipated. Admiral Hayes opened a channel to all ships. Phase 1 complete. Begin containment procedures. 1 month after the Battle of Centauri Deep, the Galactic Council held a special session. For the first time in its history, the Grand Chamber had been rearranged. Instead of the traditional hierarchy, where older species sat closer to the center, the seats formed a perfect circle. High Minister Vrax stood at the speaking position. Today we welcome representatives from Earth to discuss the future of our galactic community. The human delegation entered, led by Ambassador Lisa Chen. She walked with quiet confidence to the center of the chamber. "Thank you for the invitation," Lisa began. "Humanity is ready to rejoin galactic society, but on new terms." The chamber remained silent as she activated a holographic display showing the new containment fields humanity had built around the remnants of the Void Swarm. "The swarm is contained again, but not defeated," Lisa explained. "It will return as it has throughout history. When it does, the galaxy must be ready." A Medusan counselor raised his hand. "How can we prepare for something we barely understand?" Lisa smiled. "By learning from each other. The Council has millennia of knowledge and wisdom. Humanity has something different, an inherited memory of fighting the darkness." She outlined the new proposal, a restructured Galactic Council based on contribution rather than age. Influence would be earned through actions, not history. The oldest species would still be respected for their wisdom, but no longer automatically granted authority. "We call it the principle of earned authority," Lisa said. "A voice proportional to what you offer, not when you arrived." Debate erupted in the chamber. Many older species objected to losing their traditional positions, but others, having witnessed humanity's sacrifice at Centauri Deep, supported the change. Councillor Xenti stepped forward. "Before we vote, there is something you should all see." He played recordings from across the galaxy, images of human ships responding to emergencies during the swarm crisis. While the main fleet fought at Centauri Deep, smaller human vessels had quietly evacuated threatened worlds, repaired critical infrastructure, and provided medical aid to billions. "Humanity did not just fight for us," Xenti said. "They protected us even when we failed to appreciate them." The vote that followed was close, but the reforms passed. The Galactic Council would transform into a true collaborative body. As the new structure took shape, Captain Ryan Edwards led the first joint Human Council expedition to secure the galaxy's borders. His ship carried specialists from 12 species, including Kethmar, who had requested reassignment from the Investigation Division. "I never understood why humans built ships this way," Kethmar commented as they toured the vessel. "Now I see that everything, from the hull design to the engine configuration, was optimized to resist the swarm." Ryan nodded. "Most of our engineers didn't know either. They just followed patterns that felt right." "Instinctive defense," Kethmar said, "built into your species." On Earth, the Global Council reviewed reports from across the galaxy. Humanity's return to galactic society was proceeding smoothly, with human experts once again helping to solve problems, but now with proper recognition. President Catherine Monroe met with Admiral Nicol Hayes in the White House garden. "The new containment fields are holding," Nicol reported, "and the resonance technology has been shared with trusted council researchers." "But not everything," Catherine noted. Nicol shook her head. "Some knowledge is too dangerous. The deepest secrets of the swarm remain guarded. That's our burden to carry." Across the stars, human colonies flourished again, but differently than before. They stood as equals among the galactic community, their true nature finally understood. Not as newcomers, but as ancient guardians who had fought the darkness before any current civilization existed. In the council chamber, A new monument was unveiled, a simple stone pillar with words in every known language. To remember is to survive. Ambassador Lisa Chen touched the human inscription, feeling the weight of history and future responsibility. Humanity had nearly given up on the galaxy, nearly allowed ancient enemies to return. But in the end, they had remembered their oldest duty. The cycle continues. She whispered to herself, "We watch, we remember, we stand guard." Behind her, Counselor Xenti nodded in understanding. The galaxy had finally recognized its silent protectors, not a moment too soon.